Welcome to the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a well-rounded, happy, goal-crushing athlete. Every week, myself, sports journalist Molly Herford, and cycling coach and kinesiologist Peter Glassford interview experts and chat through all of your training questions. We're excited to have you along for the ride. Hello. Welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. Peter, how's it going?
It's going well. I had a race this past weekend, and I believe you're also still recovering from a large adventure that you did with your friend.
I fully admit that I'm not really recovering at this point so much as just very busy with Tour de France Femmes coverage for bicycling and the Queen Stage Women's Cycling Podcast.
You did sandwich this adventure between the men's tour and then the women's tour. There was a short break in there, so you've made sure to fill it with a marathon and then 2 Century bike rides on either side of the marathon run.
Yes, a sandwiched marathon. It's in retrospect, 5 days between tours was maybe not enough time to cram in a 3-day, pretty offline adventure. But honestly, I will say I absolutely needed it coming off of that tour and then getting ready to do full-on 9 days of coverage on the Tour de France Femmes. Again, listen to the Queen Stage Women's Cycling Podcast if you want daily recaps. And bicycling.com has my video commentary for more service-oriented, what riders can learn from the tour coverage. But yeah, it was pretty full on for all of July, and we were kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do after Sulphur Springs. I didn't really have any urge to sign up for races. But my good friend Karen and I, Karen's the one that I started the Collingwood Off-Road Running Club with. We were getting really tired of ourselves always getting together to work on business stuff with the running club. So we decided to reprise our 2020 adventure. If anyone remembers when everything was canceled back in 2020. She and I decided we would ride the 100+ miles to Tobermory, which is the peninsula off of Georgian Bay. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, the end of the Niagara Escarpment, I guess, as well.
If you're in Ontario and you've never been to Tobermory, you absolutely should, because the water up there, along the Bruce Trail, which is kind of our Appalachian Trail, our Pacific Crest Trail in Ontario, you would think you're on a Caribbean island. It's green, just gorgeous water. It's the coolest spot. So we ride up there, then we run a trail marathon on the Bruce Trail, which whenever we say run a trail marathon, people think it's a competitive thing. Right. Sanctioned. It's not a sanctioned marathon. We just happened to run 26 miles. And then we rode home. We actually did an extra 15 miles on the way home, so 115, which is my longest ride ever.
Okay.
In order to get homemade ice cream from a little place along the water there. So honestly, we had such a fun time, and it really reminded me of why I train the way I do. Mm-hmm. It was very, very consummate athlete, obviously. And it was just a really good reminder that racing's really fun, and I love that, but I also really, really love being fit enough to do that kind of adventure and get home and still be functioning, right? I took the next day off, but I was fine.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to, sometimes it's it doesn't have to be an either or too, right? These are the things that you have done races, you're going to do some cyclocross races in the fall, so it's not at the exclusion of races. I think ideally we would have these things sort of sprinkled about, and I think sometimes if we don't have that mix, it can sort of get tough. So I think that's fantastic that you fit that in and made that happen again. Now, did you notice differences between the last time you did it in yourself?
Oh, I think I'm infinitely stronger than I was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I hadn't really been racing ultras for that long, right? I'd done a couple of 50Ks. Mm-hmm. So the trail marathon part of it was definitely a much bigger thing for me. I remember being a bit more nervous about it and just a bit more this is really hard. Legs were really tired. Whereas this time, we just kind of got through it and it was totally fine. Now, again, we're not going marathon race pace here.
Right.
This is bopping along, enjoying ourselves, but definitely my ability to recover is much, much better than it was. all those years ago.
Okay, well, that's great. I hope other folks are sort of thinking of how they can, get their long rides in or long runs in, and maybe incorporate this into, we finish a lot of our training blocks with a big adventure to finish the block. So this would be something that folks could sort of pre-plan. This was something that you all did plan. You didn't just decide randomly to do this. So you knew it was coming. But yeah, I think a fantastic sort of celebration of summer and good weather and everything else, and certainly can set up a bunch of miles that then you can maybe hone into your cyclocross form.
For sure, yeah. And I do think we've been talking a lot about races getting canceled, and more are. I don't know if you saw Fat Dog 120 got canceled out west. The Leadville reroutes are now becoming more and more rerouted, we'll say. And I think this is just kind of a good reminder of your fitness isn't wasted ever. Just because your race is canceled, you could still plan something like this and not quote unquote waste that peak fitness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have that option. We have 3 questions today. So did you want to get into those, or did we have other? I don't see other notes here. Do we have another note?
Just the other note is we're going to be at Collingwood is having an enduro at Highlands Nordic. So Collingwood Off-Road Cycling Cork, the club that we're part of, is putting on an enduro race. So if you're in the Collingwood area or GTA or whatever, and you kind of are intrigued by the idea of enduro, I think this is a really gentle intro to it. It's going to be really fun, really local, just very chill vibes. That's August 16th.
Yeah, and I mean, I probably will do it on my XC bike. It's not that gnarly of a course. This is not a big mountain enduro or something like that. You can wear protective equipment and full face helmets if you like, but it is meant to be really enduro. I don't know if it's the cyclocross of mountain biking, but it's the sort of low key. You can definitely just go on a ride with friends, and you don't have to race the descent at all, right? And you would get down and you'd be fine. Again, these segments are pretty short because it is Ontario. But yes, a great way to sort of get out and see some people and do a big ride, a tour, even if you will, of a local area. And then also we have a cyclocross race coming up in the fall as well, in the same venue, actually, at Highlands here close to Collingwood. So if you are sort of interested in coming up and seeing the area, maybe making your own little training block out of these events, you could certainly take advantage of those.
Is it safe to say that cross is officially coming?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing more and more of the clinics and the cross camps and these types of things happening.
Well, I guess when this one goes live, we're going to be a month out from our first cyclocross race of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think today we are actually, right? Because it's, it's going to be on Labor Day weekend, I think, is the first one we do here locally. So I think August is usually when the hardcore crossers start getting ready.
Or the crossers who haven't raced cross in 12 years start trying to remember how to ride their bikes. That was honestly a big part of why I wanted to do my weekend adventure, was just to get in, obviously not cyclocross miles on the bike, but just to remind my body how to ride a bike again. And now we're there. So now we're back to skills training.
So, and then we have Bill Scheiken from CX Harris coming on, longtime friend, and shares our love of cyclocross. So we'll try and bring a lot of hype to that. But also, if you do have any questions around cyclocross, that could be skills or what races to check out, or sort of anything around the cyclocross road, we'd love a couple more questions to chat with Bill about. That's coming up more at the end of August as we get towards September and cyclocross season, but certainly you can submit those questions anytime via Instagram or our anonymous question form, which you can find in the show notes.
Perfect. Okay, so these 3 questions are all actually pretty interesting ones around kind of our ride planning and racing and all that. So let's just get right into it. So this person asks, today I did a 52-mile ride for the workout that was titled Big Adventure. So it's supposed to be 2 to 6 hours. I was pleased with my performance on the rolling hills, but I couldn't handle a long, steep climb. The ride I'm working towards has significant elevation gain. How and when should I add in workouts to improve my climbing ability? Ooh, great question.
Yeah, so this person's actually doing, I think we have 3 gravel plans, our 3 main gravel plans, and they're sort of Speedy, Ultra, and Uber Ultra, which people always like those names or hate those names. But the idea is sort of you have what I would consider the gravel races I would do, so sort of under 100K, or you're usually a 3-hour sort of finish time plus or minus, and then you get into more that middle ground of ultra, and it's a little fuzzy there, but these are the ones that are sort of pushing into the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 type hours, and then at some point you dip over to Uber, and Uber I just try and delineate a little bit as this is becoming more of we have lights or bags or self-supported. And so that's what the Uber is. So it's sort of that, like, as we're stepping, I don't want to say towards bike packing because sometimes people take offense to that, but you're more and more becoming like a self-supported bike packer or a bike pack racer. And so what would be, those would be like the 350 XLs or the 350 at the Gravel Worlds in the States.
But I think for some people, even regular Unbound could qualify for that, right? Like, because there is the beat the sun, but there's a lot of people that don't beat the sun.
Yes. And that's the fuzzy nature, right? As I say 100K, like it's just this, like, not a big deal, but like for some people that is a big day out, right? And so those folks may choose to do the ultra plan for even 100K or 100-mile ride, like something like Big Sugar might be for those people. And I always like am a little like I caveat a little bit because like speed is a good idea for most people. Even my bike packers, like I just finished an article for Canadian Cycling Magazine for bike packer training because it's sort of like taboo. I was trying to take this angle that like bike packers don't train. They're sort of like single speeders, right? And that's not true of everyone or every single speeder, but
we're just going to get so many angry single speeder emails.
Single speeder and bike packer things. But I think people would agree that like the spirit of bike packing is low key and like we don't wear chamois and we just like, why would you train for this thing? Why are you trying so hard at your bike packing? But I say in the article, like, this is an extreme thing that you're doing in a lot of cases. Like, you're allowed to train for this and it would help make the thing better. Even if when you go, you wear jorts and don't bathe and everything else, like I think you can still be an athlete going into such an ordeal and it will make it better.
Also, most single speeders are lying to you and train very, very hard.
Especially if they're fast, they're lying so much. But that's a story for another day.
Maybe as we get closer to cyclocross season even.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are we getting ready for these steep hills?
So we'll link to those plans. I mentioned this only because this person's doing the ultra plan. And so a lot of my response was like, in the plan, they sort of said like, well, what workouts should I do? And I'm like, in the plan, there are several opportunities and even like explicit suggestions to work on hills late in the ride, steep hills, fast hills. And so certainly the decision the athlete needs to make is to like, look at those workouts and not ignore them. And that story I told about the Uber ultra people also applies to the ultra people often, where they like to go on the long rides and the zone 2 and the steady long, slow distance. But a lot of times those workouts just don't really happen, or they're not happening on the terrain that it's suggested or at the intensity that it's suggested. So follow the plan, or as our friend Frank Overton often says, follow FTFP, where it's follow the effing plan, is good advice. So making sure that you're doing those intervals and then thinking like, where are the critical moments in my event that I could be using my interval days, my hard days? We only get 1 or 2 of those as a master's usually. So could I go out to the local hill and do it? And then the other workout that we really like and is in this plan as well is sort of like a finish hard, or you might now call this like a durability workout, where we do a certain amount of kilojoules or a certain amount of work, a certain amount of time. So you ride for 3 hours and then we have hard way home. You're on the wrong side of the mountain. You need to get up and over the mountain to get home. You may not have a mountain, but you could maybe use the headwind, the good old like ride out with the tailwind and then go fast on the way back, or just like you have a local hill that you can put in at the end of the workout. I like the wrong side of the mountain because there's no options in that case. Whereas adding like we have a local hill, but like you could just turn towards your home in a lot of cases and not go up and down the local hill to finish with like sort of a hill repeat. So those would be like the key things, is making sure that you are including, getting your rest day, doing the intensity workout in a place that you will then notice that you're doing it, just like the steep climbs this person mentions. And then some of those tired 20s or finish hards or wrong, what did I call it? Hard way home. Yeah. So some of those I think would be beneficial.
I do think the other thing I would check in on this is so she specifically says like, I couldn't make it up or couldn't handle a long steep climb. So 2 things there. One being, especially depending on how early you are in the training plan, like, yes, you might not be able to make it up the hard steep climb on your first try. Like, this might be this is your hill that you're going to go back to over and over and see if every time you can get a little bit further. Yep. I think especially when it comes to gravel racing, there's also no shame in having to walk up some of the steep climbs. Yep. I think even the pros are doing that in some of the races. So first, like, it's actually a great skill to be good at walking up those climbs.
Yeah, so you sort of isolated, like there's technical skill. There's probably like some mechanical setup there.
That's where I was going next, is like your gearing might actually need.
And you see that a lot. Like, I mean, even your bike could be a gravel bike, but it is not a gravel bike. And so your gearing is like traditional cyclocross gearing, which is dumb.
I was standing for some of the ride going to Tobermory.
Yeah, and especially now with single rings, like people get nervous about single rings. I really like them. I don't think I'd ever go back, but there's obviously like a limit to a single ring. And if you have a single ring setup, so one single chain ring in the front and then a rear cassette, some people will still have like small cassettes, so they don't have an easier gear, a big pie plate on the back. Then it gets very tricky. And then obviously like there's a fitness. Like if I have a 40 on the front and then a 50 on the back, so that's the front chain ring and then the biggest, easiest one on the back. But then someone has half the threshold or half the fitness that I have, then obviously that's going to be a relatively much harder situation if we're going up the same hill, right? So you want to look at like maybe you need a smaller front chain ring or a bigger back one, or maybe you do want to use a double so that you just get tons and tons of range. Now, at some point, the gear gets so easy that the speed you're going to carry isn't much different than walking pace. So at some point, you don't want such an easy gear because that also starts affecting your high speed gear when you're going quickly. So we do want to weigh that. And then, just the disposition, like you almost isolated, like the third skill you sort of put in there was like almost like a mental skill of like, a lot of times people think the top riders are like riding the whole thing or never dismount, but like they would dismount often. The second last race I did, there was this big sandhill. I think we talked about it on the podcast where, like I just ran up the thing because I didn't have to think about it. I probably, if I was fresh and like didn't have to do another 50K, I would have maybe made it. But it's just like, why think about it? And then also like save the energy. So certainly some of that dismount mount cyclocross season is coming, is a great thing to keep in mind. I also mentioned in my response here, just like around mechanical, sort of the, tire pressure would be related. And then the technical skill, did you talk about standing? Did you say like sort of the skill of making it up these technical descents or ascents, I should say?
Hadn't mentioned that. I was just saying I had to do it a lot because my gearing sucked. But the shifting around, like for some climbs, you're not going to be able to stand up because you're going to lose that back tire if it's like kind of loose. Right. And other times, standing up is a fantastic skill to be able to do.
Yes, and there is also like that figuring out the traction. Like we had two athletes went to this local gravel ride we did last weekend, the Cranky Goat up here in Collingwood. It was a fundraiser event, so low key, but they were road athletes coming, and like you could see them on the climbs where they'd stand up straight and try and like power when everyone started going quickly on the climb, and then they'd lose the entire rear wheel traction. And so that is such a great feedback mechanism, is when we're out on the hill and you feel the tire braking. Don't just sit down and slump over and like that's all you have. You can also hunt around and learn how to hold traction. Like if you watch a World Cup mountain biker going up a climb, or the top gravel racers, they can stand in a lot of and it's not the entire climb. It's for periods of the climb where we need to keep the bike moving. But you can hunt for a lot of traction. So this involves being a bit more hinged, like you're doing a deadlift where we're hinged over, we're flat, our back is parallel to the ground, our face is over our stem or even over our front hub. But that location of where you are, your hips are over your saddle, or are they just slightly behind it? Is your nose over the front hub, or is it over your stem and your Garmin, or is it back a little bit more even still? And so you have that fore and aft movement that the body moves while you're in this almost like crawling position. And that's how we can hunt for traction. There's a lot of technique in the pedal stroke as well, but the best way to learn it without me telling you about it is actually to go out and hunt for traction while standing. So we'll do things like intervals where for 30 seconds you go quickly up a gravel climb, but you have to stand the whole time and hunt for the traction and the efficiency. And maybe it's not the best strategy in the race to stand the whole time, but if you go and do things like that, then you're going to find, okay, I've learned how to stand and like effectively use that technique.
Yeah, I would say my biggest piece of advice is to make that hill your new best friend, right? Like, okay, this steep hard hill was hard to do in this ride or impossible to do in this ride. Revisit it. Keep revisiting it. Like, conquer that hill.
Yep. Yeah, and I have athletes where it's like, that's like the seasonal goal. When we think about goals, a lot of times it's really nebulous. Like, I want to, maybe it's like a power goal or do better, or like, and you're like, okay, well, this is like weird goal setting. But like, that's some of the best goals we can put into our practice, is because it's really just dependent on you going and practicing, and by the end of the year, making it up this hill. Now, of course, we need to make sure that the hill is possible, and it's not like only the person who's like, the trials champion of the world can make it up this technical climb. But a lot of times when it's like, oh no, this is like the whole gravel group makes it up and like 5 of us can't make it up this thing. This is a great thing to learn about. And sometimes what we'll do is we can mix the bike type. So we can say, can you make it on your mountain bike first? That's going to generally be easier if you have a mountain bike. Or in your gravel bike, maybe it's different tire setup or something if that's accessible. But it's just sort of going and like almost treating it like, okay, if someone wanted to learn a bunny hop or a log hop, they'd go out to a field and they'd practice. We can do the same thing with the hill. We could go to the hill or a similar hill or whatever, right? We could sort of break it down into like the component skills if we wanted, but we can also go out and just not be knackered from doing 50 miles. This person did 50 miles and had this long hill. Maybe we could get to that hill fresh and do some repeats on it, not for intervals per se, but it might serve that purpose, but also just to practice. Can I get from here to here? Maybe like a rock climber, we'd think about the line from here, from point A to point B, and then from B to C, and then C to D. And maybe you can say, okay, well, I'm doing C to D, but I still can't quite get that B to C segment. What is the line? Maybe I could try a different line. Am I sitting or standing, right? So there's all these things that we could really break down and clear it. And I think I forget that as like a skills thing as well. A lot of times is like finding the hill and just like almost like playing. And if you can have a friend with you, this is very cyclocrossy where we do cyclocross practice. And it's like, can we make it up this hill? Is sort of just like the fundamentals of like cycling, right? Is like sort of like a fun thing that kids might do.
I love it. Okay, before we get into our next question, a quick thank you to our sponsors over at Payable. So if you've ever needed to take payment from, whether you're doing a jersey order, t-shirt order, club registration, donations, selling cookies for your kid at school, all that fun stuff. It can be a giant pain in the butt to figure out e-transfers, Venmo, all that kind of jazz, but you don't necessarily want to start a website. That is where Payable comes in. So it is an add-on that lets you take payments within a Google form. So all you need to do is set up your Google form, use the Payable add-on, connect it to your PayPal or Square or Stripe or whatever payment processor you have, and boom, you are away. So you can set that up in under 10 minutes. We find it so ridiculously useful for so many things. And they are, longtime friends of ours and friends of the show, and everyone should check them out. You can find out more at payableapps.com/athlete. We have our favorite templates over there. So you can get started in under 10 minutes because we've already done all of the hard work for you. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. Okay, next question. Oh boy. I want to add a race this weekend. Should I?
Yeah, and usually there's a bit more of a story, but this is like the fundamental question, I guess, that we've gotten a couple times over the last month. So we figured we'd put this in here again. We've done a whole show on race if you were going to race, I think, maybe a whole post as well.
We've literally made frame stickers to that effect.
Right. Yeah. And so this is like, we almost were going to make it one of the 3 tenets, or I guess it would be the 4th tenet.
Fifth tenet?
No.
We already have the 4 C's.
No.
You've got
tenets
your,
are different. Yeah. The 80,
90
and 100. Yeah. So you can look those up. Those are 3 tools, I think is what that post is called. 3 tools for endurance training. And you can look at Consummate Athlete. We'll link to that one in the show notes too. But we do have another one that's race if you are going to race. And this sort of encompasses a couple things. It's a sort of like, as you get doubtful, and Molly knows this well, where you're in the car before the race and you're saying, I don't know why I do this and I'm so nervous. You have to remember that someone in your past, who is you, signed up for this event and thought it was a fantastic idea and something that you could do based on previous experience.
And wanted to do.
So you have to like really believe and trust in your previous self. And like the only way out now is you need to finish. And so you race if you're going to race. You signed up. You can make a decision in the future as your future self to not enter these races again. But this is the thing where we need to head off that doubt that we have. So this is our shorthand for this. We say race if you're going to race. Now, a part of this is also when we're signing up for races, we sign up for races. And if we don't sign up for races, then we didn't sign up for the race. So we shouldn't do a lot of last minute additions. Now, of course, there's always edge cases and people will want to do this and a race pops up or schedule's changed and I'm free or whatever. But we just want to be careful entering things at the last minute. And my belief with that is that I see it go poorly a lot of times where like we didn't really prepare and now our confidence is shot because we did bad in this race we never even intended to do. Or I've seen crashes because, like, again, our equipment isn't ready. We're not like 100% locked in for the event. So it's just like a rule of thumb. Of course, it could, you can jump into the local practice race or whatever. It's not a big deal. We just want to be careful with that.
I think there also is like just the overall season fatigue of it. I think people are more inclined. We're in August already, so most people, this isn't an issue. But I guess if you are a cyclocross person, this is going to become an issue. The jumping into like as many races as possible early because your stoke level is high, and then it's like by the end of the season, you haven't had a free weekend. You're exhausted. The house is a mess. Your bike is a mess. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're kind of almost too burned out to race your actual A race the way that you want to. So it's not just this weekend, this one race that's coming up. It's also what's happening in the weeks after it. And like, what is your reason for wanting to do it? I think like, is it nerves about an upcoming race that makes you want to like, oh, I got to get on a start line? And maybe that's actually a good reason to do it.
Yep.
Maybe that's a terrible reason to do it because your actual race is like 2 weeks away and there's no longer a great time to do that and recover and be good to go.
Yeah, and those are considerations. And so again, like any good rule of thumb, it's just like there are reasons to go against it. And so a lot of times, like you've isolated, it's sort of like, who is the person? What is the situation we're in? Have you not raced all year and you do have a race coming up? And like in some cases, it'll be like, I would have wished that they maybe raced more. And then the person's like, oh, well, there is a race this weekend. And maybe we have like a pretty aggressive workout in. As you've approached your 100 milers in those like 3, 4, 5, 6 weekends out, you often have like 20 miles and 20 miles or something like this that are just like big burly workouts that probably would be fine to be one of those days would be like maybe a race, right?
Well, we did do that back in 2022 when I had my first 100 miler. I had a 6-hour relay like 4 weeks out.
Right, but you did plan that.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is like that was on your run-in. That was like the plan coming in was that you would have this practice race. And then you would go to the race. The thing would be like jumping into the 6-hour race the week of the race is where I'm like, yeah,
for sure.
That's suddenly like a lot, right? Because the thing is like you might have made different decisions during the week as far as the number of intervals or group rides. The weekend before might have been different, and not always. But then the other thing is like again, that race is going to demand a certain amount of mental attention, certain skills. The bike needs to be set up earlier, and again, this is where it's like boom, like we blew something off the bike, the chain breaks because the chain's so worn from all your training, and you bash your knee off the thing, and then they like I've just seen these things so many times that it's like if we're not invested in it, it could go either way. And so there's lots of times we break this rule. Again, if someone hasn't been racing a lot, does take great care of their equipment, the event is like in line with what they're doing, then it can be great. But yeah, it's just sort of that like careful, well, especially when we're into the week of this same event.
Yeah, I think you also need to ask yourself, like, what do you want out of the race? And how are you going to react if it doesn't go according to plan?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if it turns out, like, you get your ass kicked, but you had your, like, big race coming up in a couple weeks, like, is that going to help your confidence or is that going to hurt your confidence?
And that's probably the most common thing that I see, yeah.
If you have like a, bobble or like a mechanical or something like that, like, are you going to be okay with it not going according to plan? And is that going to wreck your confidence going forward?
Yeah, and so that would be the other thing is like looking at like the athlete, like, okay, they don't do a ton of races, but they're very resilient. And like, I would say I'm like this where like, I'm pretty, like, as long as I know that I did a good job, right? And I wouldn't get too spooked if I had an off day either, like as far as just like not feeling.
But you've been doing this for a lot. I'm
sure.
Like almost 30 years.
Yeah. So that's like the thing. But then for other people, like if maybe this is from not racing a ton and not really like having internalized like why they're training, right? It's like they're very external in their motivation. That's like where it would get risky to be like adding things, especially last minute. But yeah, it sort of depends. Yeah, it depends so much on the person. But as a rule of thumb, and even for everyone, like it's just, if in doubt, it's better not to change course, right? Like I think that's like a tenet of like, if the plan's working, it's better not to do a lot of big adjustments. And something like a dose of racing is a big change, right? Like even if you have a hard workout on the day, it's rarely as stressful because there isn't the start line stress and the driving to the race and the weird food and stuff like that versus just like doing your 3-hour workout at home on a Saturday. It's more stressful to drive an hour, wait around, do the race at a high intensity, and then wait around. Like I went to a race on the weekend. It took under 3 hours, and I think I was gone for like 9 hours or something, right? So it's like, and so for adults, this is where I often just get like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, and I think there's better things you could do. Could you ride to the race, like do your workout on the way to the race and then cheer on some people at the finish line, right? Like if you're kind of in it, if you want to do it because your friends are doing it, is there a better way that
or
you
support
can
the race?
support?
All of them need volunteers. So often you've mentioned that when we've done this type of episode.
Sure. Yeah. Like actually at the Enduro, like I'm volunteering. I'm going to probably like run there, and my parents will probably drive the stuff up that I need to set up our tent and everything like that.
Because your parents are also visiting.
My parents are also visiting.
The thing about busy adults.
Okay.
It's like, okay, so you have a lot going on. You sure you don't want to jump into a random Enduro race? What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
But yeah, that's the idea. And so actually we had a couple of athletes that I had made plans and stuff for, like one of them actually did ride to the race and their spouse was racing. And then, yeah, like, so there you go. Like you got to do the social and the hangout after the podium. We had to all buy our food at the local shop, including some butter tarts, which is nice. So they could still participate in that if they wanted.
And I love that because the usual temptation would be like, oh, my spouse is racing, so I should also race. But riding to it is such a great thing to do.
Or go to full support mode and not train, right? Like it's the other variable.
Whoa, right? Hey.
Yeah, which is, I guess, makes sense. But yeah, sometimes it was like you could also do it without racing, right? So there's also that option. I think actually Keegan Swenson, he was injured, but he came to Mid-South, right? And was there and sort of toured around and saw the race and stuff like that. So like even the best people may sometimes choose not to race. His was a little more, I think, enforced because his pelvis was broken or something. But there you go.
All right, I love it. Okay, last question. Substituting workouts. What if I can't mountain bike or do the intervals? So basically, what do you recommend for a substitute workout if the weather puts a stop to the prescribed workout for the day? So there, for this exact one, my workout today is 6 by 30-second sprints off-road. There are thunderstorms planned for after work when I'd be heading out. I'm going to hopefully sneak them in, but if it's storming, I won't go. Trails around here aren't good ones to ride when they're wet, which is very, very common. Also, PSA, don't ride on muddy trails. It's very bad for the trail systems. It erodes the track and just generally can kind of mess things up for everybody. So stay home.
Yeah, so I always think about, Coach Clance. I don't think we ever had Coach Clance on, but he trains like some of the top like hockey and NFL players. He's a strength coach from Toronto. And he has a bunch of really good sayings, like legs feed. What is it? Like legs feed the wolf. And like,
which I don't like. I think we just shout it a lot of the times, and
I think they have a wolf on the side of the gym.
I know but I don't actually totally understand it.
I think it's like if you have strong legs, then like you are a wolf, I guess. I don't,
See, you don't really understand it either.
You're like an apex predator or something. Yeah, okay. So it's aggressive, maybe, but that's the idea. And so one of his sayings is like never stray too far from the intensity. And like when you have to like, deload or work around an injury, you do the thing that sort of keeps you close enough to the intensity. So in this case, there's a few options. We have another post that's sort of like, when you can't do your workout, what do you do? And it's like the 6 S's, and we can never remember all the S's. But like what a lot of people like to do is sort of like shift their weekdays until all their workouts are on the weekend. And then they try and do all their workouts on the weekend because, of course, that's how the body would accept all the workouts jumbled together on one day.
I'm going back to my 100 mile a week.
Yeah, just all at once. The weekend warrior phenomenon, right? And so we get that. But the risk of shifting is that at some point there's a deadline. Like you have to do the workout today. There is a race today. And so like you're going to like run out of time. And then of course we know that there should be some delay, some recovery period between our key workouts, our intense workouts, our big long workouts. So it's risky to move a day. So say Thursday was an intense workout or something like this that isn't that big of a load, but like you are expected to really be sending these intervals. These are attacks, right? Like I like to put a video in that workout, and it has like the women's short track race where they're just viciously attacking up this double track hill, like lap after lap, and it's so steep. Speaking towards like the hill they're going up is so steep, and they're standing and smashing. So this almost relates to our first question today. And so if we took this intent to be intense and put it on Friday, and then Saturday was also sort of like a longer, often this is going to be like our finish hard, what do we call this? Long way home, hard way home workout. it could be okay, but it gets risky. So I only preface in that like the temptation would be to like, I'll just do it tomorrow, or I'll swap it with tomorrow. And the problem is a lot of times you end up affecting the workout. So coach athlete could work together, and maybe we just like rearrange things so that there'll be enough recovery, or maybe we do decide that, we'll put those together for a little block, but you want to be careful with that. So if we say we want to do the workout today, this is usually what I say is like, try and do the best you can. Sometimes it's okay to get wet. I went out yesterday with my friend Eric, and it was raining the entire time, but the gravel was actually really nice because it had been dry out up until now. And I left with a raincoat, but it was over 20 degrees. So this is approaching, 69, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I actually just took my raincoat off and just got wet. And it was actually, we chatted the whole time. It was very, very nice. So sometimes we get a little nervous about a bit of rain in the forecast, especially in the summer. So sometimes we can just go out. Locally, we have sandy trails, so you can mountain bike on them in the wet. So that would be a place. If you do have trails that are more rain stable, that would be an option.
Or even gravel road in some cases, right?
And so coming back to Coach Clance, never stray too far from the intensity.
Legs feed the wolf.
He's a genius. He's a super smart guy. But some great, you need some catchphrases, I guess.
Also, his daughter is super cool. Everyone should really look them up and follow them.
Yeah, in Olympic lifting. So anyhow, with that catchphrase, what we're saying here then is, could we do 6 by 30 seconds in any other setting? And are most mountain bike races actually done in settings where it's like grass or gravel hill or honestly pavement half the time now? A lot of races have a lot of critical moments, such as that short track race I talked about. Evie Richards is attacking up that thing. So this is where we can start thinking like, okay, yeah, I can't mountain bike today, but maybe I could ride the local path network that's pavement and gravel, some twisty corners in there. Maybe I hop over the odd curb, and then maybe there's this hill in the local park. Maybe we use it for cyclocross where I can go quickly up the hill for 30 seconds, practicing my standing like we talked about. And then maybe I descend on some slippery grass and I'm practicing maybe a bit of skidding or foot out or whatever. And so there's a bit of technique. And so what we're doing then is saying, this would be our tenet, our first tenet, 80% as a passing grade means, it was a bike ride with 6 by 30 seconds. Can you do that? And yes, it was a mountain bike. Are you on your mountain bike? Perhaps. And then can we make it a little skills oriented with some of these other little things sprinkled in? So I think that would be my primary solution to this would be, how do you solve the workout when it's raining and the trails aren't close or they're closed or whatever the situation is like, could you ride your mountain bike on mountain bike terrain? Again, remembering that mountain bike races often have these other little elements sprinkled through them.
Love it.
Cool.
Okay. I think that is all our questions for this week. But again, find us consummateathlete.com. We have an anonymous submission form. You can DM us at Consummate Athlete on Instagram. And as always, rating and reviewing the show is very much appreciated. We've got some really fun episodes coming up. And with that, happy training, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. If you want to hear more training, racing, and endurance sport advice, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at consummateathlete.com for a weekly dose of inspiration and advice straight to your inbox.